I attended a furry convention to ask one simple question. Would you consider Sonic to be a furry?
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it doesn't take a 6-hour video essay to figure that out, but I was more curious in the what of it all. What about Sonic makes himself a furry? What makes him a gateway into the community for some? And in general, what are furries truly like? Before anything else though, I wanted to hear what Sonic fans thought on the matter. Would you consider Sonic to be a furry?
No.
I want to say no, but I feel like the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he is, yeah.
Yes.
And as I began to hear both sides, I noticed a reoccurring theme.
I mean, he's literally an anthropomorphic little guy.
Yeah, he's anthropomorphized.
He's anthropomorphized.
It's an anthropomorphic animal.
He is anthropomorphic, an anthropomorphic hedgehog.
Was he a hedgehog?
He's a hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
He has everything. He has the eyes. He even kisses humans.
Like, you've got Tails, you've got Amy, Blaze. They're all anthros to some extent, so...
So, what is an anthro? Anthropomorphic, or anthro for short, is a non-human thing that is ascribed human characteristics. While animals are most subject to this, it can also apply to objects. Take Mrs. Pot from Beauty and the Beast, for example.
I really miss what we used to have, Mrs. Todd. Please just come back. You have my number.
A furry can either be classified as an anthropomorphic animal, or the name of a person who's a fan of anthropomorphic animals. Going back to Sonic, because this is about him after all, he can be classified as a furry, since while he's a hedgehog, he talks, stands on 2 legs, and eats like a college freshman. And while Sonic is a furry by definition, I would hesitate to call all Sonic fans furries. But that's not to say there isn't a noticeable amount who are or have become furries due to Sonic. For as long as I can remember, I've seen Sonic art that leans more into the furry side of things, whether he's given paws or more animalistic features. So I wanted to know, what makes Sonic a gateway into the furry community for some?
It's all about just like putting yourself in that universe, which a lot of fandoms don't necessarily have in a way that Sonic really can. And I mean, Sega took full advantage of it with like Sonic Forces.
It is the most like easily anthro / not anthro for the people that are against furries. Way for people to be like, oh, I really like the look of that character. Can I create something similar to that character?
I feel like the Sonic OCs growing up really played a big part in it because, you know, you can be anything you want. Anthropomorphic cat, anthropomorphic hedgehog, anthropomorphic bunny.
If you see, like, the self-inserts, all that sort of stuff, that's generally, like, a lot of people's first personas.
I think the age that you're not introduced to a very strong furry creature. You're often introduced to like cartoons that you see. It's kind of like Disney, right? He's a furry, but like you don't really see it as that.
You look at somebody like Mickey Mouse, right? And they just look too much like
a mascot.
Yeah. Whereas Sonic has more personality and it comes off cooler. So that's a little bit more appealing.
It's a kid's franchise. Sonic's everywhere.
He's kind of our ambassador besides Tony the Tiger. Or actually, the Cheeto Cat.
Between Chester the Cheetah, Tony the Tiger, Sonic the Hedgehog, Love, Marry, Kill, what's your list?
Marry Sonic. You never know how fast your man needs to be. I would possibly kill Cheeto because I can't live with him or without him. And then I'd probably marry Tony because, I mean, he's great.
The point of Sonic being one of the biggest furry ambassadors isn't wrong. A lot of people's first exposure to furries was and continues to be from this little blue dude. And while I got a pretty good idea of how Sonic fans could be exposed to the furry community, I was curious how these furries were first exposed to Sonic.
Sonic's been around like for most of my childhood. I was born in 2000, so.
2000 as well. Let's go, 2000s babies.
The original TV series, the cartoon, his skin arms.
If Sonic X was it, or?
Yeah.
Playing the original Sonic the Hedgehog on my uncle's Genesis.
Sonic 2, my cousin had the game on Genesis.
Sonic 2, like an emulated version.
The 2010 Mario vs. Sonic Olympics. I was never really into Sonic because my dad was a Nintendo person, so he's very upset I'm into Sonic now.
It was like a game, and you like type in your name, and then you put the hedgehog after it, and then you find like all this art, and it's just off the wall, mate. I don't even know if I can say it. Like,
learning the different ways these people were first exposed to Sonic really drove home how big of a role he plays in both pop culture and the furry community. The fact a good chunk of people I talked to weren't even Sonic fans, but still had a wealth of Sonic knowledge, showed me that, like it or not, Sonic is entwined with furry culture. And this had me wondering, why are some people still so against the idea of Sonic being a furry?
Because a lot of people who are against furries that like Sonic but can't like admit to liking an anthropomorphic animal with the term of our fandom usually get also protective, kind of like people listening to indie music, like, I found them first. Yeah. If you like dogs, you could be a furry. If you like Sonic, you could be a furry.
It's the same kind of thing about people talking about whether My Little Pony is furry or if Pokemon are furries, and it's like, you know what, it's an animalistic character that's humanoid. Like, that's sort of the definition of furry to me.
Sonic might not have intended to be a furry, but come on.
Maybe because he's like a video game character. Maybe he's just like too fast for them, you know?
Lots of people think that furries are the weirdos and quacks of the world. And, well...
Thank you.
I just think that people want something to relate to, man. People want him to be a furry. They want him to be in that community.
Being a furry, right? You're associated with furries, which, like, no offense to furries. There's great furries, but furries also know there's not great furries.
People who are Sonic fans who don't like furries are like viscerally against furries, even though they secretly are furries themselves.
It's like you're insecure.
Yeah, that's cope, dude.
There's like a lot of generalized like types of furries. So you have like very muscular, and Sonic is not muscular, so they're like can't be a furry.
So does that make like Sonic like a twink furry, you think?
You want some representation?
What is it about the furry community that a lot of people are scared of?
Degeneracy.
I mean, Sonic fans are guilty of that as well, though, so.
It's rooted in the history of the furry community intersecting with the queer community really heavily. And since it was born in the 80s with the whole AIDS outbreak and the socio-political environment of the time, all of that kind of brewed together, and nobody's really bothered to take the time to untangle that mess. Yeah, properly.
Now, by no means might I want to unpack this. Hell, I'm still unpacking how I feel about Mrs. Thought. But what I can say for certain is that there is a massive stigma around furries, and some Sonic fans refuse to be associated with them. Hell, I had Sonic fans decline being in this video for subject matter alone. And while I can respect that, I just think it's lame to see furries still getting a bad rap after all these years. If you don't identify as a furry while being a Sonic fan, that's fine. But at the end of it all, can't exactly knock them when you too are obsessed with brightly colored animals. As a furry, do you have any words for the Sonic community?
Sonic Mania is the best 2D Sonic game.
Get those golden rings.
Touch grass.
Say just keep going for it, make your own stuff. Furries are also cringe. Just embrace it and have a lot of fun.
If you want to be considered a furry, you know, by all means, call yourself that. Don't let folks say otherwise. And if you don't really see yourself like that, then don't have to call yourself that.
Come get to know us.
Israelites to the promised land. A spectacle to be seen.
I'm just exhaling.